Hello, I'm Susan Lawton with United Way of Tampa Bay. I welcome you to the Sortopalooza. This is our 5th annual children's book drive, and in the next 4 hours we're going to sort over maybe 70,000 books for children here in Tampa Bay. Some of the things that volunteers have wanted to know before they started in the past are some basic understanding of what volunteers do and their duties that day. So the first thing we're going to look at is a sorter. When our volunteers bring these to the sorting tables, they're just bins of all sorts of books. And so what we want to do at the very first is to go through books and sort them into different categories, into board books, story books, and chapter books. Now, a board book has cardboard pages. That board part, that's what makes it a board book. It's usually thick and chunky. That goes into the board book box. Then there's storybooks. Storybooks have mostly pictures, less text, but a combination thereof. And a chapter book has mostly chapters. Fewer pictures, more text. Our sorters will be standing at sorting tables, and books will be delivered to your station. And you will be there with different boxes labeled chapter book, board book, storybook, and a few other things that you'll see once your team leader gives you direction. But you'll look through here and see, okay, storybook, storybook. It may not be in good shape, but you don't have to worry about quality because you're looking just for category. That's chapter, chapter, chapter. Lots of stories. When it's very colorful, you're pretty sure that that's exactly what it's going to be. Story. Now, this may look, because of all the pictures, that it's story, but when you look at very small text, that means it's for an older child, and that would be in the chapter book. This clearly a chapter book, and here another chapter book. And that's the kind of rhythm that you're going to have to go through. So once you're doing this for a little while, you will get the hang of it. Board books, chapter books, and story books. But because we get everything from the community and we ask for new and gently used, we may get gently used, well, one person's gently used is another person's kindling. So that one is not going to go to a child. If it's really in bad shape, you're going to send that to Goodwill. Goodwill is one of our partners. They have best practices in resource distribution, and they waste nothing. So we know that if we send books that we cannot use to Goodwill, it will go to good use. The next step in our process are the reviewers. These are volunteers who will all be seated at tables who will be able to look at the books and decide, is this good enough to give to a child? Or is it not good enough to give to a child, but there's still life in it so we can give it for classroom use? Or is it too far gone and it goes to Goodwill? So if you're a previewer, you're sitting at your table and you're going to get a bunch of books that are all going to be either storybooks or chapter books. And you're going to look at these books and you're going to say, I can't get that dirt out. It's pretty worn. There are water stains. That's not even good for classroom use. So we're going to send that to Goodwill. Same thing here. If you look at how worn it is and this stickiness back here that cannot be replaced or repaired, that's going to go to Goodwill. Same thing here. Look at that. It's a great and wonderful, funny story, but that's not what we're going to give to a child or send to a classroom. Now, I do have a lot here, of course, that don't qualify to give to a child, but just to give you an idea of what unacceptable is. But then you'll start to get to some other ones that are in perfectly good shape. There's no dedications, there's no marking whatsoever, so that's going to go on to be labeled, and that's going to go to a child. This is also a chapter book. Okay, so this should be on the chapter book table, and it's ready to go. The next station we have are the cleaners. A lot of these books have been well loved, and sometimes just a little bit of cleaning is going to take care of that so it's good enough to give to a child. When it comes to cleaning the books, there's really not a large percentage that we're going to spend that much time, but sometimes just one little squirt of cleaner on a paper towel, and the paper towels and the cleaners will be at your tables. Sometimes that's going to get off what we need to make that a perfectly acceptable book. Sometimes it's not going to work. So this is going to go to Goodwill. It's done its job as a good book. But the rest of the books, if you got a little schmutz, you just want to wipe it off. Sometimes even chapter books have a little bit of stickiness. You've got the damp paper towel, just wipe off whatever schmutzy stuff was there and move it on. But if you've got too much that the stickiness is there or that it's dirty or crusty, we don't have time to get that much off during this process. So we'll send that to Goodwill, and they'll be able to save some of these books for children through their programs. So we've had the sorters, the previewers, the cleaners, now we have the labelers. These books are clean, inside and out. They just need to be labeled. And we label them with a label that you'll have at your table. It's a United Way label, and we put it right in the back here. And so sometimes you'll find that it may cover a piece of the story or some information that you want to make sure it doesn't. So sometimes you might have to move it somewhere else. Now, here's another book that should not, sometimes this is going to happen to you. You're going to get a book that comes to your label table that you clearly see is not good enough to give to a child. So put that in a separate pile, call for a runner, and the runner will make sure that this goes to the classroom pile. And then you get back to the ones that are in perfectly good shape. You pull the label, put it on the back, and keep it moving. Because once these are all labeled, then they're ready to be packed and shipped to a school this very afternoon. One of the most important jobs that we have are the shippers. Shippers are on their feet the whole time, and we need them to box the books. They're the ones who are going to take all these books that have been labeled and are ready for the children, and they're going to box them up. They're going to make sure that they fill the box to capacity, because doing less than capacity could make the box collapse, and that becomes a safety issue when you're packing a pallet full of boxes. So you fill the box to capacity, and you're counting as you put the books in there, because we count absolutely every book that goes out to the community. So just say you've got a box here, there's 62 books, you close this up, you put a 62 here, a 62 there, you check off, see this is storybooks, so you would check storybooks. We never put chapter books and storybooks or any other thing. You don't mix them in any box, so it's either going to be chapter or storybooks or classroom. So you put the number there, the number here, and then it goes just like this. So for those of us who are going to be shipping it, we've got to be able to see from either side what's in that box and how many are there. And then the box gets taped up and put on a pallet for a school. And then we're done. Thank you so much for your commitment to the children of Tampa Bay. Your work here at the Sortopalooza is really going to make a difference in the life of a child. Don't worry about anything that you might still have questions on. We have key team leaders, volunteers just like you, who've done a number of Sortopaloozas already and will be able to answer your questions. We're there to help you because you're there to help us. Thanks again.